So in this video, I'm going to explain how I made 100% and 10% returns on TLRY. So the first thing we see here is this anchor VWAP from the swing high. You see how TLRY has not broken above it, right? So that's been acting as resistance. Then if we look at the chart, we see a pattern. It's called a head and shoulders. Inverted head and shoulders, I'll say. There's the left shoulder, there's the head, there's the right shoulder. So what we need to do is break out above the neckline, which was right at 5.62. I'll make that a little bit thicker. You see how each time it got to 5.62, it rejected 3 times. Later in the day, on I believe that was Tuesday, the 22nd, it broke above it. So I bought call options. The call options that expire on March 25th, 3 days later, went up 100%. The call options that expire in January of 2023 went up about 10 to 15%. So we play back that day. So I got in about somewhere around there, and we'll just play back what I saw. We got the break. I take a light position. I was up about 18%, I want to say, at the end of the day, so I could have sold, but since I wanted to wait for the pop, I just held it. So I should be on a, there goes the open, right? So let's pause that. You see we break. I sold the contracts that expire on the same week, so the March 25th contracts, I sold them literally as soon as we opened. I sold the January 2023 contracts right when I saw this candle, because at that point I knew we had no continuation. I honestly already knew we probably weren't going to have any continuation just based on the pre-market, because it was up to about 6.3 or something in the pre-market and came all the way back down to 6. So just progressing throughout the day. We'll switch over to a 15-minute time frame. This doesn't look too good. So to finish out the day, and I'll just say going forward that I actually do have a lot of shares of TLRY. I like it long term, but to finish out the day, we did come back to test those previous highs, and we're up a little bit pre-market right now. I don't know how far that's gonna go, and just looking at the daily chart, I'll take this video a little bit further actually and do a more of an analysis on TLRY. Going back on the daily chart, I mean, this I already had this trend line drawn, and I have lots of pictures on Instagram and stuff showing that. I already knew it was going to reject right up in here between 6.2 and 6.38, because that's where we have some weekly resistance. We got another swing high anchor VWAP right up in here too. So we knew we wanted to be taking profit up in here, but in the event that it did break out and just keep ripping, I had some later term contracts. But even those I didn't want to be in, because that rejection I figured was going to be bad. And it's pretty likely that we come back and test lows at this point. We got a W type of double bottom here, but it might not continue. We'd have to break out above 6.3, 6.4 and keep rolling. The next area of resistance would be up in here, but this is the difference between wanting to be in contracts versus shares. This setup, that was a good trade, but this is not something that I wanted to be holding too long, because we're still in a very, very, very sickening downtrend, to be honest. I mean, it's sickening, it's bad. So that's the difference between wanting to be in shares versus contracts. I felt like being in shares was a decent move, because I don't have I'm not going to lose premium on time decay. Get to hold the shares as long as I want to. I mean, you can literally hold them forever. I feel like cannabis is going to be a great long-term investment. Um, Tilray is building one of the better brands out there for the cannabis companies. It's this year, so I'll say 2022 is a mid-term year. Democrats losing popularity likely. Well, I'll say they need to do something to regain popularity. Also needs, I'll say government needs to increase revenue to pay sickening debt, right, that we've incurred over the past few years. So this is why I'm bullish on cannabis stocks. And don't quote me on these numbers, but if I'm not mistaken, New York or some state or something like that either had taxes surpass, or I guess I'll say revenue from taxes on cannabis surpassed the revenue from taxes on alcohol sales. I mean, that's a big thing. I can't quite remember if it surpassed it or came close or something like that. And if you just look at cannabis, I mean, everybody's got it. Tilray is talking about having the CBD stuff in like liquor, like alcohol. Like they already got it in some of everything. So a lot of states just got it legalized. We just need it legalized federally. And like I said, the Democrats got to do something. I mean, honestly, and I'll even add that even Republicans, I'll say cannabis. I won't say legalization because the verbiage here gets funny. I don't know if they support legalization or just decriminalization or exactly what it is. So, that's just my outlook on the cannabis industry. I think it's a huge industry to be in. And I mean, I just walked you through how I look at something short term, how I look at it longer term, and wanting to be in, and how I decide whether I want to be in contracts or how versus shares. So that's pretty much this video, and you can see how how I always say, don't buy the dip until you see something. This is the first. Yeah, let me go back let me double check before I quote myself on that. We've had a couple, don't get me wrong, we've had a couple bullish weekly candles. But since we've been on this downtrend, yeah, I mean, we had one here, but it doesn't count because we never broke above it. But this was our first weekly reversal, bullish reversal on the weekly for Tilray. And you also see MSOS is a cannabis ETF for U.S. stocks or U.S. companies only. Since the inception, which is not that long ago, August of 2020, since the inception, this is the first time ever that MSOS had a bullish engulfing on the weekly. It's called an outside week. It means you took out the lows and then came back, took out the highs, right? And it doesn't wick. The only wick is to the downside showing. We got buyers down here. I mean, it's a small wick, but nonetheless, it's a wick. This is bullish. All we need to start seeing now is bullish monthly candles. By that point, I don't know if I want to be in, by the time I see a bullish monthly candle, I don't know what the setup is going to be. I mean, this could literally be back at 35. That's how crazy cannabis stocks are. So that's why I want to be in equity versus contracts. I will say I do have some 2024 contracts in my Roth IRA on MSOS. That was also something this video just loaded with all types of free game. Something I found out the other day through a friend of mine. I call him a friend. This guy pretty much taught me a lot about investing. He told me that he showed me that he's been trading options in his IRA account. And if you're familiar with the Roth, I'll go ahead and put a note there. Can trade options in a Roth IRA. Let me put this in all caps. Gains in a Roth IRA grow tax free. I mean, I can't. I mean, like, it ain't enough exclamation points in the world. I'll also say gains in an HSA grow tax free. I don't know if it's for everybody or it's a TD Ameritrade thing, but you cannot trade options in an HSA. But guess what? You can do. You can trade shares in HSA. And I have a boatload of TLRY, CGC, Kronos shares. Those are some of the big boys in MJ. I also have some MJ shares. MJ is a cannabis ETF. It's just not strictly, the United States, like MSOS is. I mean, if we get a strong monthly close here on MJ, the chart is a lot cleaner than TLRY. I mean, this is like a perfect chart. You got the first green monthly candle forming in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 months. And honestly, 10, 11, 12. Out of the past 12 months, you only had one closed green. And you failed. This was bullish. I mean, that's was a butterfly doji, dragonfly doji. This is crazy bullish. So, I mean, I would have honestly taken this long. Your stop loss would have been right here, because you see what happened once you lost that support level. So, honestly, I'm going to go ahead and add a red line there. So, I know that that's a pretty significant level, because a lot of people who got stopped out sold right there, or people who didn't sell probably going to sell right there. People who started taking a short got in right there. So up in that 18.5, 18 or 18.6 to about 18.9 area, 19 area will be a good time to consider trimming, or at least look for bearish signals. But looking at this, man, this will be a crazy double bottom. I wouldn't be too concerned until we got to the neckline. You can see how I got it written in the neckline. Either you break out and continue, or you pull back. And honestly, if we pull back, I probably would load right back up. But I mean, this was pandemic lows. MJ is back at the pandemic lows. Like, a double bottom right here would be perfect, and we just need this monthly candle to close strong. We got 7 days left. So today and tomorrow are the final days of the week, and then all of next week. Okay, so April 1st is a Friday. Man, I mean, this might be honestly one of the better videos I've had, and I'll say, just from the content provided all the way through actual investments, that I mean, this is my play of the decade. I'll call it cannabis stocks. I think when we talk about electric vehicles, they cool. I love the EV space, green, all that good stuff. But government, they kind of botching the whole thing. I don't really, they letting oil just run crazy, because it's to the point now where I don't even know how much EVs are really going to work, because electricity is so expensive. Well, it has the possibility to be so expensive with the government potentially putting us in an energy crisis. We don't have a clean transition. I'll go to, let me see. EVs. So I gotta watch this for EVs here, right? See, I like stuff like Blink because that's more infrastructure. And to be honest, I'm definitely watching this. I'm watching all these EVs, really. I'll say we just look at something like, I don't know, Rivian. Stock looks horrible, but I mean, who knows what they end up doing. Okay, I'll be fair. Let's go to Tesla. Tesla looks pretty good over the past few years. You see what happened to Tesla? It went parabolic. And if it decides to consolidate up here and make another run, cool. But my whole thing is EVs, you're gonna be paying the same money regardless. It's just cleaner energy. So it's like, is that premium really worth it to you as a consumer? You know what I'm saying? Like, everybody got bills and stuff to pay. So it's like they didn't let oil get so out of hand that it's like, it's just, you know what I mean? Like, you telling oil companies they're not gonna, you know what I'm saying, get paid and all that. Well, you telling them that you can cut them out. So the idea here is, in my opinion, if I'm an oil company, I'm like, man, I'm not about to I'm not about to increase production just so oil prices can get lower. If you feel me? Because they finna cut me out. And honestly, who knows when that's gonna even happen. But anyway, you're gonna have the prices of energy just going bonkers because you don't have enough renewable energy right now to sustain the grid from the consumer's needs. And so what I'm saying is, you don't have, if you cut out oil and you keep banning drilling and, you know what I'm saying, like all this stuff, they don't even have the capability to produce to increase production, in my opinion, from all the things that I've read, looked at, all the numbers I've seen and all that stuff. So even if you go clean energy, you still gonna be paying a premium for electricity because the grid is gonna be unstable. Because what's supplying the grid? Look at what's happening in Europe. It's an energy crisis, especially with the war situation going on. And people want to blame the war, but they had this coming. They've been shutting down nuclear for a while now, and all that stuff. So it's like, what did you think you were gonna go to? You don't have enough clean energy to supply to keep the grid stable. So it's like, it's a bit ridiculous in my opinion. And this honestly is this whole energy thing is another reason why I go back to cannabis, because they have lost credibility. The Democrats have lost credibility. I'm honestly, the whole government did, because they all let this happen. You can say what you want, the Republicans this, Democrats that, I don't care. They all let it happen. So they lost popularity, man. They lost credibility. I won't say credibility, not just popularity. So that's something else that you got to consider. And all of this boils back to cannabis. It's like, to me, it's the last card they got to play. I mean, it just makes sense to be invested in cannabis long term. Oh man, well, I think this was one of my first rants. I don't know what this is. I don't know why this stuff keeps popping up, these random alerts. But that was one of my first rants in a while. I hope y'all enjoyed the video. And I will say, just stay long in cannabis. And hopefully this video ages well. We'll see what happens in the midterm at the elections. And I'll be back with another video soon. So make sure you like and subscribe. And I'll catch y'all for the next video.